Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear student, how are you? Hope all are well by the grace of Almighty Allah. Alhamdulillah, I am also well. Welcome to ACPS online class. This is Masum Al Ishaq. Today, I am with you. I am going to discuss from chapter 4, which is related to teaching of the glorious Quran. This chapter specially related to tajweed, makras, waqf, gunna, and some of the surahs from Holy Quran. Our today's topic is all surahs with meaning from our textbook. So, dear student, that means we are going to discuss the surahs from 4th chapter of your textbook. So the first question is, which surah describes the story of elephant owners? Write down that surah with meaning in English. Okay. The definition is, the name of the surah is Surah Al-Fil, that revealed in Makkah. There are 5 verses in this surah. The pronunciation and the meaning of this surah are given below. Dear student, try to memorize from here specially 2 things, that is, this surah is revealed in Makkah and there are 5 verses in this surah. Okay, punctuation, pronunciation. The pronunciation of this surah is given below. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The first verse is Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil fil. Alam yaj'al kaydahum fi tadlil. Wa arsala alayhim طيرا أبابيل ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول. So, these are the 5 verses of Surah Al-Fil. Dear student, try to memorize these verses in right pronunciation. Now, the meaning of this surah is given below. The meaning of the first verse is, have you not seen how your Lord dealt with the owner of the elephants? Then, did he not make their tricks to be nothing, and send against them flocks of birds named Ababil, which Ababil pelted them stones, thus he made them like eaten straw. So dear student, after memorizing the pronunciation of Surah Al-Fil, you must memorize the meaning of Surah Al-Fil also. Okay, dear student, come to the next question. Where was the Surah Al-Kawthar revealed? Write down the Surah with meaning in English. So, this question is related to Surah Al-Kawthar. Definition: the Surah Al-Kawthar was revealed in Makkah. There are only 3 verses in this surah. This is the smallest surah in the Holy Quran. The pronunciation and the meaning of this surah are given below. Dear student, you have to memorize mainly 3 things from here. The first one is, this surah is revealed in Makkah. The second one is there are only 3 verses in this surah. And the third one is Surah Al-Kawthar is the smallest surah in the Holy Quran. The third part is very important. So you have to remember that which one is the smallest surah in the Holy Quran. The answer is Surah Al-Kawthar is the smallest surah in the Holy Quran. Okay. Come to memorize the pronunciation. The pronunciation of this surah is given below. The first one is إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. This surah is very small. There are only 3 verses. So to memorize this surah isn't too tough for you. This is very easy. I'm reading once again. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. Okay. Meaning. The meaning of the surah is given below. The meaning of the first verse is, Verily, I have given you the Kawthar, fountain of abundance. So the meaning of Kawthar is fountain of abundance. Then, so pray to your Lord and perform Qurbani for him. That means perform sacrifice or Qurbani for only to earn satisfactory of Allah. Then surely it's your hater, one who hates you is finished without an hair. So there are only 3 verses. Try to memorize this surah with its meaning. Okay, dear student, come to the next question. Where does Surah Al-Ma'un revealed? Write down the surah with meaning in English. So the definition is, the Surah Al-Ma'un was revealed in Makkah. There are 7 verses in this surah. The pronunciation and the meaning of this surah are given below. Dear student, try to memorize 2 things from here. Number 1, Surah Al-Ma'un was revealed in Makkah and there are 7 verses in this surah. If I ask you how many verses are there in Surah Al-Ma'un, then the answer is 7. Okay. Pronunciation. The pronunciation of this surah is given below. There are 7 verses. The first one is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُّ الْيَتِيمَ وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَاعُونَ. Sadaqallahul Azim. So this surah is little bit big. There are 7 verses in this surah. So dear student, try to memorize this surah. Then the meaning. The meaning of this surah is given below. The first one is, have you seen the person who denies the deen? Here deen means religion. It's he who harshly pushes aside the orphan. Then and doesn't encourage others to feed the poor and the needy, then so, woe to those who perform salat because they are forgetful of their salat, who only display, show off, and the last one is and refrain from helping even the little or small thing of the household necessity. So, unlike other surahs, this surah is little bit big. So, dear student, try to memorize this surah. If you don't memorize this once, then read this surah and meaning again and again, because this surah is very important for your exam. Okay, dear student, come to the next question. Where was the Surah Al-Kafirun revealed? Write down the meaning of Surah Al-Kafirun. Okay. Definition. The Surah Al-Kafirun was revealed in Makkah. There are 6 verses in this surah. The pronunciation and the meaning of this surah are given below. So, you must memorize 2 things from here. The first one is Surah Al-Kafirun was revealed in Makkah, and the second one is there are 6 verses. Okay, come to memorize this surah. Pronunciation. The pronunciation of this surah is given below. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين. Dear student, here the 3rd verse and the 5th verse are same, and this verse is وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا أَعْبُدُ. This verse is in the 3rd line and again in the 5th line. So, when we recite this surah, try to memorize this surah very carefully. Okay, meaning. The meaning of this surah is given below. Say, O disbelievers, I don't worship anyone whom you worship, and you don't worship whom I worship, and I don't worship anyone whom you worship. You won't worship whom I worship. You have your own religion, and I have mine. The meaning of this surah is not so easy. So, the student read the meaning of this surah again and again to memorize well. Okay, dear student, come to the next question. Where was the Surah Al-Quraysh revealed? Write down the meaning of Surah Al-Quraysh. Definition. The Surah Al-Quraysh was revealed in Makkah. There are 4 verses in this surah. The pronunciation and the meaning of this surah are given below. Dear student, like all the other surahs, you must remember 2 things from here, and they are: this surah was revealed in Makkah, and there are 4 verses in Surah Al-Quraysh. Okay, dear student, come to memorize this surah. Pronunciation. The pronunciation of this surah is given below. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. لإيلاف قريش إيلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف فليعبدوا رب هذا البيت الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف. So, dear student, this surah is also very easy for you to memorize. Then come to the meaning. The meaning of this surah is given below. The meaning of the first verse is, there is addiction of the Quraysh, addiction or desire for the journey in winter and summer, so let them worship the Lord of this house. Here, house indicates the Holy Kaaba, so let them worship the Lord of Holy Kaaba. And the last verse is, who has fed them against hunger and made them safe from fear. Dear student, try to memorize Surah Al-Quraysh with meaning carefully. Dear student, we have already discussed 5 surah from your textbook, and they are Surah Al-Fil, Surah Al-Maun, Surah Al-Kawthar, Surah Al-Kafirun, and Surah Al-Quraysh. The student try to memorize these 5 surahs and try to memorize the meaning of these surahs and then write down in your copy. So, the homework for the next week is memorize the surahs with meaning and write them, that means all surahs, and then submit me through my Messenger, Viber or WhatsApp ID. Dear student, thank you so much for attending the class. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.